In the third year of my marriage to Emery Hart, he was triggered into a susceptibility period by a highly compatible omega. I rushed to the scene, only to be stopped at the door. Separated by a thin wall, I heard his low, mocking laugh. "Jalen, you're just a beta. A beta who could never soothe an alpha." My hand froze on the door. The inhibitor. Before I could finish, someone cut me off. "Assistant Riven, escort the spouse home immediately." I forced down the ache in my chest and turned to leave. Just before reaching the elevator, I stopped. "No need to send me. Go guard him." Riven paused, but stubbornly stepped into the elevator with me. "Please don't worry. The lounge is stocked with the latest inhibitors. And besides, Emery ordered me to send you home. Please." I pressed my lips together and walked silently toward the parking lot. The moment I sat in the passenger seat, my pocket vibrated violently. "Emery is acquiring our family's shares." The message from my father made everything painfully clear. Why Emery, who had always spent susceptibility periods with me since our marriage, suddenly rejected me today? I lowered my head, fingers whitening around the phone. It was like seeing Emery 3 years ago, standing outside my home with his investment proposal. His family's company had suffered a severe cash flow break back then. No one in the circle would help. Everyone was waiting for that giant to collapse. And I followed Emery everywhere, watched him return defeated after endless dinners, saw him crouch beside a roadside trash bin, hitting the ground in helpless frustration. I had been angry and anxious. I begged a friend for his bank account and transferred all my savings to him. Emery wasn't someone who clung to pride. The next day he thanked me in person and even signed an IOU. But it was still just a drop in the bucket, so I did the boldest thing in my life. I told my parents, "Emery and I have secretly been in love for 4 years. I want no one but him." My father scolded me for losing my mind and throwing myself into a wall. I knelt and protested, "Mom, Dad, Emery isn't that kind of person. He promised, once his company recovers, he'll marry me." After a long confrontation, my parents agreed to meet Emery. I excitedly went to him. "My family isn't influential, but given the circumstances, would you consider working with us?" The next day, Emery came to our house with his investment plan. Unexpectedly, everything went smoothly. My father even praised the proposal as flawless. But he added one condition. "I want you to hold a public engagement banquet with Jalen, right now. Invite both families and sign an agreement." Emery turned to me. The gratitude in his eyes vanished, replaced only by cold mockery. In that moment, ice filled my veins. But repaying kindness through coercion, what choice did he have? Our wedding kiss was staged. On our wedding night, he drank until he passed out. We've slept in separate rooms ever since. I brought all of this on myself. I don't blame anyone. Until Emery's susceptibility period hit, and his father forced an artificial pheromone shot into me, pushing me into Emery's room. One chaotic night. When I woke, aching everywhere, I dragged myself to apologize. He silenced me with a breath-stealing kiss. "You don't need to apologize. I know it wasn't your fault." My hands trembled as I wrapped my arms around his neck, tears slipping silently. After that, we quietly tried to function like a real couple. Respect outweighed affection, but that small spark of hope in my heart started to grow again. I secretly bought back the treasured items Emery once had to sell. One of them was a watch he used to wear every day, his publicly declared favorite. I bought it back at twice the price and gave it to him on his birthday. He stared at the serial number for a long time before pulling me into his arms. "Thank you, baby." I thought that moment was the beginning of change. Emery even went through great trouble to adopt an alpha child, Cairo, to secure our marriage legally. In this era of collapsing birth rates, alpha-beta couples were heavily restricted. Without an heir, they would be forcibly separated and reassigned within a year. But now I see, it was all an illusion. Now that Emery's company has risen again, he finally wants to throw me away. I forced a smile, swallowed the tightness in my throat, and went home. The moment I opened the door, our little one rushed at me, eyes peeking behind me. "Where's father? He said he'd read me a story tonight." I steadied myself and lifted him. "Father's busy. Daddy will read to you, all right?" Thankfully, Emery had left enough pheromones to calm him, letting him sleep soundly through the night. I woke to the sound of non-stop alerts, large transfers, asset changes. I frowned and called my father. "Dad, what are you doing?" His bitter laugh filtered through the phone. "Sweetheart, I'm not sure I can protect you anymore. With these, at least your future will be safe." My throat tightened. "I'm sorry." The dial tone echoed. I kissed my sleeping child's forehead in apology and stepped outside to call Emery. 3 calls. No answer. I dialed Riven. "Have Emery pick up." Riven hesitated. "Emery took an inhibitor. He's resting." I grabbed my keys. "Fine. I'll go to the company." But the moment I started the engine, Riven shouted, "Madam, Emery isn't at the company." I slammed the brakes, pulled over, and opened the location he sent. A luxury apartment near the office. I bit my tongue until I tasted iron, then drove. Half an hour. Enough time to tear my heart apart and stitch it back together. When I knocked, I still sounded calm. "Emery, we need to talk." But the moment the door opened, I realized I had overestimated myself. Emery stood there, shirt undone. I forced myself inside, and bumped into the table. No pain. Everything sharp in the room was covered with protective foam. Thick carpet, warm yellow walls, comfort everywhere. But not for me. Emery shut the door and sat opposite me. "What are you doing here?" My parents mattered more. I gathered myself and pleaded softly. "What happened with our marriage is my fault. Leave my parents out of it. Whatever you want to do it to me. I'll leave with nothing." Emery's expression darkened. After a long silence, he let out a cold laugh. "So that's what you think I am, a parasite?" Hearing that, I finally felt a small breath of relief and shook my head. I should have thanked him and left, but I couldn't stop myself. "Your susceptibility period, going home would be easier." The doctor. He cut me off sharply. He leaned back, exposing his unzipped pants. "I want to spend it here. Go home." My mind flashed back to what our physiology teacher once said. Alphas and omegas spend their special periods only where they feel safest. So this place, where I've never been, was safer than our home. Someone else made him feel safe. Someone I had no right to ask about. I forced a smile and walked out, utterly defeated. Back in the driver's seat, I finally couldn't hold it in. I collapsed onto the steering wheel and cried in silence. When the alarm went off, I pulled myself together and drove to the kindergarten. Rushing into the school, I saw a delicate-faced young man holding my little cub in his arms. I hurried forward to take my child back. I was about to thank him when he said, "Madam, hello. I'm Emery's new assistant, Voren." No wonder I had never seen him before. I nodded in understanding. "Thank you. But, why are you here?" "Because Emery's assistants, except for Assistant Riven, never touched anything outside of work." The strange feeling was quickly confirmed. Voren dug through his bag and pulled out a watch, lowering his head as he handed it to me. "I'm very sorry, madam. On my first day, I failed to properly control my pheromones and caused trouble for Emery. This is the watch he left behind at the time. Assistant Riven said you might be busy today, so I volunteered to pick up the young master." I couldn't hear anything after that. The high compatibility Omega. So it was him. But even knowing that, Emery still kept him. I let out a bitter laugh and took the watch. "Thanks. I have things to do. I'll head back first." "Do as you please." I struggled back to the car. As I bent down to buckle my child into the safety seat, he suddenly asked, "Daddy, the watch smells nice." "It smells like father, and also like plums." I froze. There was no mistaking it. The plum scent was Voren's pheromone. How long must a watch be kept close to the body to be stained with an Omega's pheromone? I didn't know, but Emery, who never went anywhere without this watch, knew. And Beta Assistant Riven, who knew how important it was, also knew. Yet both of them chose to let it happen. I stiffened, finally understanding what exceptions meant. Clack! My phone hit the floor. The sound snapped me back. Hands shaking, I called for a chauffeur. On the way home, I stared at that familiar number for a long time, finally deciding I would tell Emery everything once his susceptibility period ended. If he wanted freedom, I was willing to walk away with nothing. But I didn't want to torture myself with silent assumptions, and I refused to be a stepping stone. As soon as we got out of the car, my child hugged my leg eagerly. "Daddy, the day after tomorrow is my birthday. Will father come home?" The day after tomorrow was the most painful stage of the susceptibility period. I couldn't guarantee anything, so I only rubbed his cheeks and told him to eat dinner first. But later that night, looking into his pitiful little eyes, I gave in. At 10:30, I called Emery. "Can you come home the day after tomorrow?" A long exhale came through the phone. "I'll be home. It's the baby's birthday." That evening, Cairo came home carrying a cake and toys. We avoided mentioning the earlier conflict, each of us flawlessly playing our roles. Only when making a wish did something unexpected happen. "I hope every birthday I can spend with father and daddy together." I smiled, scooped a bit of cream, and dabbed it on his little nose. I didn't say anything, but unexpectedly, my wrist was grabbed. Emery lifted my hand and drew a heart on our child's forehead with my fingertip. I turned to him in surprise and met his eyes, softened by candlelight. "Okay." For a moment, I almost believed it. Thankfully, the talk in the study sobered me up in time. There was only a two-seater sofa in the room. I sat beside him out of habit. He reacted like he'd touched something filthy, immediately stood up, walked to his desk, and sat down instead. A stab of pain shot through my chest. I placed the watch on the desk. Voron brought this over. Emery just nodded, making no move to put it back on. I couldn't give up and pressed on. He's an Omega. And he's your assistant. Emery finally looked up. Father arranged for him to be here. He's just here to learn. But his father had sent people before too. None had stayed. Why was Voron an exception? Nausea surged up my throat, so strong I nearly threw up. Suppressing the wave, I looked him straight in the eyes. Emery, do you want a divorce? The pen in his hand dropped and hit the desk with a sharp crack. Why would you ask that? He didn't say he did. He didn't say he didn't. But adults know the rule. No refusal means yes. Means agreement. I stood and walked toward him, pushing the watch closer to his hand. Because I won't accept him being an exception. And I won't accept a third party. Emery took out a glasses cloth, wrapped the watch, and shoved it into a drawer. You're overthinking it. That day will never come. Then he stood and left. My mind went blurry. Hope, foolish, impossible hope, rose again. I hurried after him and blocked his way. Today is the third day of your susceptibility period. Emery cast his gaze downward and lifted my collar, pulling it closed. Go to bed early. Emery's company has a major project. I'll be working late and sleeping in the guest room. I walked back to the master bedroom in a daze. The drawer full of artificial pheromones kept me up all night. It wasn't until he left the next morning that I finally went downstairs, so out of it that I barely reacted when my child ran into my arms. Daddy, Father's pheromone is here. I smiled and leaned close to sniff his raised hand. Smells nice. Father comforted you again, didn't he? Satisfied, my child ran off. I walked to the table, slowly lifting my hand to my nose. If only I could smell it. But all I caught was the sour scent of milk, suffocating and sharp. I pressed my hand to my burning forehead. James, could you call the doctor? Daddy. Before I finished, everything went black. When I opened my eyes, the surroundings had changed. Only the dizziness and nausea remained. I forced myself to press the call button. James entered with the doctor. Where's the baby? Anne, what's wrong with me? James pushed my shoulders gently down. No need to worry, madam. The young master is waiting at home. As for your condition, look at this. The doctor handed me a report. Preliminary suspicion, abnormal development of beta secondary gender traits, possible influence of excessive artificial pheromone exposure, further testing required. My breathing quickened. I immediately held out my hand. Give me my phone. When I got it, I called Emery. What time will you be home today? A pause. I'm working overtime. I'll come as soon as I can. I nodded, wanting to tell him the news, but all I heard was the empty dial tone. It's fine. I could tell him when he got back. I set my ringtone to max volume and turned to the doctor. So I'll need nutrient injections next, right? He nodded. A nurse came in to start the 4. I watched the milky solution drip slowly into me. The quiet was so complete. I fell asleep. I didn't expect a single phone call from a friend to plunge me into ice. Baby, why didn't you attend the banquet with Emery today? Didn't his family love betas the most? My brows tightened. I'm in the hospital. Did something happen? The person on the other end went silent. I pressed again. What happened? A light cough. Just, check your phone. There was only one picture in the chat. My hand trembled as I opened it. In the photo, a pale, slender hand rested in Emery's arm, Voron's. And a little farther up, on Emery's wrist, was a brand new watch shining proudly under the lights. I turned off my phone. Darkness filled the room. The lights in the hospital room flicked on again at 1 in the morning. I looked at Emery, raised my hand, and tapped my left wrist with my index finger. Give me the watch back, Emery. He froze at the doorway, his tense knuckles brushing against the light switch by accident. In the hush of the dark, I heard his answer. It's being serviced. In a couple of days. I cut him off softly. I just picked it up from maintenance last week. A faint smile tugged at my lips. I'm really easy to fool, honestly. But why, out of all the excuses he could have picked, did he choose the one that was easiest to expose? Emery didn't reply. Instead, I heard footsteps slowly approaching. I felt completely drained. I bowed my back and covered my eyes with both hands. Let's divorce, Emery. Let's end this. I'm letting you go. The hand hovering above me never landed. Emery left without a word, slamming the door behind him. I stared blankly out the window for a long time before calling my parents. Their response was simple. Come home, Jalen. I took a deep breath and contacted our family's legal team. Draft a divorce agreement. I don't want a single cent, but I'm taking the kid. For days after delivering the agreement to Emery's desk, I received his reply. He asked to meet at a restaurant, but when I arrived, what greeted me was a brand new agreement. I frowned and flipped through it quickly. Emery had made 3 major changes. 1. The investment Jalen's family made 3 years ago would be transferred as a gift to Cairo, and Cairo would shoulder Jalen's medical expenses. 2. Custody of Cairo belonged to Emery. 3. The public announcement of the divorce would be decided by Emery. I let out a cold laugh and slammed the paperwork in front of him. Everything else is negotiable, but custody of Cairo is mine. Emery only tapped the table twice with his fingers. Riven immediately stood up. His gaze dropped to my abdomen. After learning about the medical report, Emery is still willing to cover your treatment. That is already a form of kindness. Besides, the young master is an alpha with a genetic deficiency. Before surgery, he requires Emery's pheromone stabilization. And you are just a beta. I stared straight at Emery. I want to talk to you alone. Riven looked like he wanted to insist, but left after Emery signaled him to. I threw the new agreement beside Emery's hand. I want custody. He took out a cigarette, holding it between his fingers but not lighting it. Jalen, think about what's best for the baby. He needs to stay with me for pheromone regulation. And you don't want to lose him either, do you? When he finished, Emery's gaze drifted, almost subconsciously, toward my abdomen. I was shaking with anger. And yet, deep down, I knew he was right. For 7 days a week, 4 days with you for stabilization, 3 days with me. That's my bottom line. The cigarette paper crumpled, flakes of tobacco scattering across the table. Emery nodded gently. Fine. The day after tomorrow. Bring the new agreement. We'll meet at the registry. A thought struck me. When did you find out about the medical results? Emery tore the agreement in half. The moment the report came out at the hospital, the doctor notified me. So even after learning the results, he still took an omega to that banquet in full view of everyone. My last bit of composure collapsed. I left before I broke down in front of him. We signed the final papers with swollen eyes. In a world without cooling-off periods, the entire divorce took 10 minutes. Staring at the blurred road outside, I said, I'll pack up and move out today. I'm taking the kid with me. Sunday night, send someone to pick him up, alright? Emery nodded and walked toward his car. Only when his luxury car disappeared into the distance did I call a taxi back to the villa. Thankfully, the kid was still at school, giving me time to rehearse the explanation. Unfortunately, while packing, I realized many things were missing. Maybe that was better. With trembling hands, I gathered the synthetic pheromones and the cut-up photos, throwing them all into the trash. 3 years sharing a bed, dreaming 2 different dreams. I laughed at myself, never looking back. Everything went smoothly until I picked up the kid and returned to my pre-marriage apartment. Before I could explain, he rubbed his cheek against mine. I quickly cut him off before he could ask more. Daddy knows. But right now, it's time for dinner and sleep, okay? He obediently walked to the table. That night, he slept soundly. But the next morning, after dropping him at kindergarten, I went into a clothing store, and instantly spotted Voren. There was a new shirt draped over his arm, Emery's size. I pretended not to see him and walked toward another rack. But unsurprisingly, Voren approached me first. Mr. Jalen, long time no see. I frowned. Judging from how he addressed me, he already knew about the divorce. Even though Emery and I agreed not to make it public yet, I let out a soft, humorless laugh and brushed past him. I thought ignoring him would make him back off. But Voren didn't mind at all. He stuck close. Whenever I picked something, he grabbed the same item. Annoyance shot up in my chest. Can you stay away from me? You smell awful. It's making me sick. Suppressing the nausea, I grabbed the shirt and headed to the cashier. Before I finished paying, my phone rang. Mr. Jalen, your watch maintenance is complete. We confirmed there's no residual scent. When would you like to pick it up? I frowned. Please contact Emery's assistant. He'll retrieve it. I hung up before he could answer. Beside me, a voice cut in coldly. No need to worry, Mr. Jalen. I'll pick up the watch. And on Sunday, when would you prefer me to pick up Cairo? That damn watch, whatever. But the kid? Why did he think he had the right to touch that boundary? My expression turned icy. Get out. I grabbed my bag and stormed out. But just as I reached the exit, a sharp pain twisted through my abdomen. Emotion-induced? Or something worse? My heart lurched. I hurried toward the underground parking lot. But by the time I reached B2, the pain had intensified. My legs buckled. I almost fell. Someone caught my arm in time. I looked up along that pale wrist. Voren. He released me with a gentle smile. Instinctively, I covered my lower belly. My knees throbbed. The parking lot echoed with his voice. Mr. Jalen. Mr. Orizon is requesting your presence. A group of tall, imposing alpha men stepped forward at the same time, giving me no room to refuse. Enduring the pain, I climbed into the car and slipped a hand into my pocket, trying to press the emergency button. But the phone stayed dead, no vibration, no light, nothing. I looked out the window at the shifting scenery, my mind a complete mess. Was there still a chance to escape? Who exactly was Voron, and what was his connection to Emery's father? I got my answer soon enough. Emery's father nodded slightly, gesturing for me to sit. I stayed standing, tense and alert. The moment his cane tapped sharply against the floor, 2 bodyguards stepped forward and pushed me down onto the wooden sofa. I remember, he said coldly, when you first married Emery, you were a cooperative child. His eyes drifted downward, chillingly calm. Then you changed. You refused to use synthetic pheromones to stabilize him. So his episodes kept getting worse. Do you know how much damage an unstable alpha can do to our corporate image? And let's not even mention the adopted child. My stomach tightened. How did he know I had thrown away most of the synthetic pheromones they sent? I stared at Voron, who was calmly pouring him tea, wearing a gentle smile that didn't reach his eyes. Mr. Jalen probably doesn't know, Voron said lightly, I'm an A-grade Omega. My compatibility with Emery is 85%. A high compatibility alpha and Omega pairing, anyone could guess where the scales would tip. A cold wave crawled up my spine. I instinctively curled forward, shielding my abdomen. But a second later, the bodyguards lifted me again. Behind me, Voron let out a soft laugh. Don't worry, Mr. Jalen. It's just a minor procedure, removing some problematic secondary sex traits. Worst case, early organ failure. These lunatics really wanted me gone. I stopped holding back. I turned my head and cursed under my breath. A sharp pain shot through the back of my neck. The world went silent. When I woke, I was strapped to an operating table. Someone in green scrubs lifted a syringe. Anesthetic. No, it would hurt that. I struggled with everything I had, but all it got me was the cold sting of a needle sliding into my arm, the liquid level dropping slowly. My consciousness blurred. Sirens screamed somewhere in the room. Sir, you can't go in. Please step back. Your father is only doing this for your own good. The noise cut off with a roar. Get out of my way. The restraints loosened, and I fell into a familiar embrace. It's all right now, Emery whispered. When you wake up, everything will be okay. I couldn't open my eyes to see him. The last thing I felt was something warm falling against the side of my neck. I woke with a jolt, frantically lifting my shirt. No incision. No pain. My abdomen felt normal. A shaky breath escaped me as I sat up. But when I stepped toward the wardrobe for support, the sliding door suddenly swung open, making me stumble back onto the bed. Inside hung shirts of every color. The one that stood out most, a red and green patterned shirt, strangely familiar. Before I could reach for it, Emery walked into the room. Are you feeling any discomfort? I instinctively shook my head and stepped back, avoiding his touch. His expression tightened. He turned, closing the wardrobe quietly. Good. I'm glad you're okay. I'm sorry. My situation dragged you into this. Everything came rushing back. I shot him a glare. Emery, whoever you choose to be with has nothing to do with me anymore. Can you control your father and Voron? Divorce came easy to you, didn't it? High compatibility Omega getting soft in your heart already? I forced a laugh, my voice sharp. Just stay away from me. All of you make me sick. Emery lowered his head, his voice strangely rough. All right, I understand. It should have made me relieved. Instead, a dull ache spread through my chest. I looked away, swallowing the tension as silence filled the room. A knock saved us. Emery, the medication is here. He took the vial and the report from his assistant, then handed them to me. The liquid inside was bright, familiar blue. This again? I frowned. We had only used it once, back in our second year of marriage, when I suddenly fell into unexplained pain. Emery exhaled and pointed at a line on the report. For abdominal pain caused by structural instability, recommend daily supplementation of alpha pheromone extract. I glanced at him, stunned. So this blue liquid was Emery's. I pressed my lips together and counted the vials, just enough for 1 week. Perfect. Considering I had just told him to stay far away. I cleared my throat, ready to discuss the schedule, but Emery spoke first. It's my responsibility. Don't worry. I'll have more delivered regularly. Relief finally washed over me. I drank 1 vial immediately. Thank you. I'll go now. He murmured an acknowledgement and followed me out. Only when I exited the bedroom did I realize, this place was an apartment he had never once told me about. My hand clenched. I walked faster. The journey home was thankfully uneventful. I shut the door behind me and curled on the couch as I called my mother to pick up the child. While waiting, one question circled in my mind. If I relied on Emery's pheromone extract long-term, trouble would come again. His father and Voron were not people who played fair. Rubbing my temples, I muttered to myself, there must be an alternative. Wait, an alternative. My eyes lit up. Synthetic pheromones. I booked an appointment with a specialist immediately, but the next day, when I explained my idea, the doctor frowned. Mr. Jalen, you should run a diagnostic first. After the exam, she held the report, face serious. How much synthetic pheromone have you injected in the past? I froze, thinking back. Aside from the 50 milliliters on our wedding night, I had used it twice during a difficult period. 80 milliliters, I said. She let out a quiet sigh. Even the safest variant, a beta's lifetime limit is only 100. Your report indicates early-stage structural degeneration. I swallowed hard. I knew enough biology to understand. Betas had no pheromones, no glands, but their undeveloped secondary features were fragile, unstable. One wrong push, and it collapses, she added softly. Mild cases require lifelong, expensive medication. Severe cases, organ failure. My ears rang. My face drained. Is there a cure? She lifted the blue vial, the one tied to Emery, and glanced at my abdomen. I'm sorry, Mr. Jalen, but as long as you continue using this alpha's extract consistently, you should remain stable. Cold rushed through me. How long do I have to use it? Can I switch to a different alpha? Her gaze sharpened with disapproval. At least 5 years. As for switching, come with me. Confused, I followed her to the extraction room. Through the one-way glass, I saw a nurse push a 6-centimeter needle into an alpha's gland. No anesthesia. The man trembled in pain. Anesthesia weakens the concentration, the doctor murmured. Was this what Emery had gone through ever since he discovered I had used synthetic pheromones? But why? I was just a beta. Useless to him. The doctor misunderstood the look on my face. After seeing this, do you still want to switch? You should value yourself. That alpha owes you. Her anger almost startled me. If only she knew. It wasn't like that. I managed a bitter smile, but pushed again. She finally relented. Yes, I could switch, but only after 8 months. Decision made, I left the hospital and called Emery to talk about the medication schedule. No answer. I tried again. Still nothing. Just as I lowered my phone, a message popped up from an unknown number. Jalen, you lost. Emery belongs to me. It came with a link. I deleted it immediately. Then another message came. And another. In seconds, 99 plus texts. I exhaled sharply. Vorin. Of course. I was about to block him when my father called. The shareholders' meeting is tomorrow. Your Uncle Daniel and his people turned against us. They want to replace the executive director. Don't worry. Worst case, we retire early with our dividends. I clenched my jaw. All right, but of course I cared. This company was his life's work. We held 47%. Daniel held 18. Others 30. Scattered stock 5. With Emery's family supporting us, the board had always backed my father. But now, unacceptable. I dialed Emery again. No answer. Just a rising number of missed calls, and a pinned public announcement on his account. Our divorce. I pressed a hand over my eyes. How could I forget? The agreement was clear. The announcement time was Emery's choice. I returned home in silence, gathering every bit of liquid capital I had to buy more shares. But even by market close, I only managed to secure 0.3%. Holding the little one in my arms, I stayed awake the entire night, preparing myself for the worst. Just as I was about to head out the door, my usually well-behaved kids suddenly started fussing. Daddy, take me with you, please. I'm begging you. I knelt down, ready to comfort him, but he clung to my arm and said with surprising firmness, Father said that if he's not home, and Daddy has to go to the company, then as the only alpha in the family, I must take responsibility and stay by Daddy's side to protect him. I froze for a moment, then took his hand and led him outside. All right, Daddy will bring his little bodyguard today. When we arrived at the company, I settled him in the lounge. But the moment I turned around, my little shadow followed me again. He tugged open his backpack and shoved several folded papers into my hand. My eyes widened. Emery voluntarily transfers 4.7% of his personal shares to Cairo. Dated, August 10, 2076. 10 days before his last uncontrolled episode. I suddenly didn't know what to think anymore. But the shareholders' meeting was about to begin. I didn't have time to dig deeper. Carrying the transfer documents, I headed for the conference room. With Daniel leading his faction, the opposing shareholders looked defeated as my father successfully kept his position as executive director. I hurried back to the lounge, eager to call Emery and thank him. Before I could dial, his assistant called. Madam, something happened to Emery. Ever since he returned to the old estate yesterday afternoon, I haven't been able to reach him. I wanted to blurt out that we should storm the place and drag Emery out if necessary, but the words stuck in my throat. With what identity would I do that? And the reason Emery was being controlled was obvious. His father wanted to force him and Voron together. I hung up coldly, but behind me, my father spoke. I contacted a security company. What do you think, 20 Alpha bodyguards enough? I stared at him in disbelief. Dad, Emery and I are divorced. He's about to. I didn't finish. He handed me a document that stopped my breathing. The first page was a promise Emery signed 3 years ago, simple, direct, stating he would treat me well and love only me. If we divorced, he would leave with nothing. The second page was a signed transfer, 27% of his family's company shares, immediately effective with my signature. I closed the documents. Get another 20 bodyguards. We're leaving now. This time, I would find Emery myself and demand the truth. After coordinating with the assistant, I rushed toward the old estate with the team behind me. But before we could break through the iron gate, an ambulance sped in first. My heart jumped. I slammed the accelerator and followed. The moment I stepped out of the car, servants were carrying out a convulsing Voron. Ignoring him, I bolted for the elevator, only to be blocked by Emery's father and his men. It's all because of you, he spat, eyes crazed. Emery never listens now, your curse ruined him. Do you even understand? Only an Alpha and Omega make a perfect match. Betas like you should just disappear. His face twisted with frenzy. Maybe there was a story there, but I didn't care. He was wasting my time. I motioned behind me. My bodyguard surged forward. The assistant added fuel to the fire. Sir, I've already released the documents regarding your company's tax evasion, as Emery instructed. He nearly choked. Perfect. I snatched his cane and tossed it aside. When he staggered, I slipped into the elevator. I ran down the hall and pounded on Emery's door. It's me, Jalen. Open up. The lock clicked. The smell of blood hit me instantly. My breath caught as I turned on the lights. Emery was biting down on his own arm, stumbling backward. My chest tightened. I reached out. Don't come closer, he warned, voice shaking. I can't hold myself back anymore, sweetheart. I dumped 20 different suppressants from my bag onto the bed. Are you coming here or not? He faltered, took 2 steps toward me. It won't work, he murmured. I already used them. I stepped forward quickly. What happened with Voron? It was just casual curiosity, but Emery's expression drooped dramatically, sounding almost wounded. So you care about him, but not about me. I forced a smirk. My dear ex-husband, talk, or I'm dragging you to the hospital. His energy dimmed even further. He was overheating. I had to use my pheromones to overpower him, but it triggered my episode 2. He leaned closer, head lowered. It hurts. My heart softened, though I tried to sound stern. I reached for his belt buckle. Fine, just once. Then hospital. But in the next second, he caught both my wrists in one hand. No. He installed full coverage surveillance in the company and the house to monitor me. We go home. My mind jumped to the demolished marital house. You don't mean? Emery nodded, jaw tense as he pulled on loose clothing. When did you find out? The answer drifted to me in the hallway. The day I realized he was forcing you to use synthetic pheromones. He had the assistant drive us straight back to the small apartment. The moment we entered, Emery rushed into the bedroom. When I caught up, he was running back and forth like a frantic worker bee, pulling clothes from the closet, arranging them on the bed, layer after layer, forming a little circle, a nest. A behavior seen when an alpha is overwhelmed with affection but receives no comfort. I stared in disbelief and picked up a red-green floral shirt, mine, and all the rest were things missing from the day I moved out. I shot Emery a glare. That one look sent him into full meltdown, tears and all. Sweetheart, I'm sorry. You don't like me anymore. I'm the saddest alpha. No one wants me, little cabbage, left in the cold. I couldn't help laughing in exasperation and pinched his cheek. Stop it. Explain everything from the beginning. He leaned into my palm, eyes filled with devotion. You definitely forgot. Forgot what? Before I could ask, Emery gently fastened a familiar watch onto my wrist. Serial no. AL20691225. Emery pointed at the string of numbers. I engraved this myself. The day we first met. But my first meeting with Emery was clearly in 2073, right after he returned to the country. And I remembered it distinctly. It was the Christmas party organized by our department. Emery didn't attend. I quickly told him my doubts. But Emery shook his head. No, it was Christmas 4 years ago. I had just been diagnosed with the genetic disorder and got kicked out of my home. When I had nowhere to go, you gave me the most valuable thing on you, your watch. I'm sorry, later, when my treatment reached the final stage, I sold it. I wasn't angry. In fact, I was relieved the watch had helped him. But one thing didn't add up. Emery, then why didn't you tell me the truth when you came back? He patted the empty nest he had built. I came back to fight for power. It was uncertain from the start. What right did I have to drag you into it? A sour ache rose in my chest. I let myself sink into the nest, and Emery wrapped me in his arms. He lowered his head and pressed a kiss between my brows. I've been acquiring shares of the family company. Cairo is adopted, and he has a genetic condition. I knew my father would make a move sooner or later, but I didn't expect him to target you first, even encouraging other shareholders from your company to defect. So I had to play along and let you go. So simple. But that didn't mean I wasn't angry. I snorted, pushed him away, and climbed out of the nest. Fine. I get it. Stay here by yourself. Emery's eyes flew wide open. He scrambled to me on his knees, clutching the hem of my clothes. Honey, please forgive me. I raised a brow and said nothing. He leaned in harder. Let's remarry, please. I smiled sweetly and pried his fingers off. Nope. His eyes reddened instantly, tears dripping like pearls. Then, can I borrow your coat? It doesn't smell like you anymore. My breath hitched. Ears burning, I shoved the coat into his arms and walked out. I wasn't expecting his false susceptibility period to escalate so fast. At 5 in the morning, I woke up needing the bathroom, only to see Emery crouching beside my bed, clutching my clothes. His eyes were red. He nudged his head into my palm on his own. Honey, touch me, please. In the 3 years I'd known Emery, I'd never seen him like this. I panicked and smacked him on the head. He jerked up, eyes sparkling, tapping his cheek. Here too. I was terrified, really terrified. I shoved him away and scooted aside, but that only made him tear up. Honey, don't leave. I was wrong. What now? What new chaos was he about to unleash? I got my answer fast. Emery suddenly stood, presenting himself like a helpless newborn. Then he knelt, head bowed, and I felt a warm, careful touch at my ankle. I'm clean. Honey, don't abandon me. The hand in Omega touched. I washed it 100 times. If you hate it, I'll get new skin tomorrow. The desperate tremble in his voice nearly sent my soul out of my body. Is this what nesting alphas were like? I didn't have time to think. I kicked him away. Move. The moment the hold loosened, I rushed to the bathroom. But Emery stuck to me like glue, not letting me close the door. If I can't see you, I'll die. I didn't know if he would die, but I'd definitely die of embarrassment if I didn't close the door. I shoved him out and locked it. But then I heard a careful knock. Honey, do you want me to help you hold things? No. Everything is crooked already. I screamed silently. Emery, are you a dog? My suspicion got confirmed quickly. When I came out after showering, the once neat bed was a disaster, piled with his clothes, leaving barely a hand-sized space for me. I gritted my teeth. What are you doing? Emery burst into tears first. He lunged over, hugging me tight, prickly hair burying into my shoulder. His voice was sticky, needy, pleading. The bed is too small. Sleep over there with me. Please, please. I was stone-hearted. No. The word had barely left my mouth when the world tilted. He carried me like nothing and shoved me into the nest, covering me with clothes. Emery, I swear. Before I could finish, his palm covered my mouth. He even glanced left and right, like guarding treasure. Honey, don't talk. Someone might try to take you. I'm scared. I bit down on his palm, pouring out days of anger. Even when blood welled up, I didn't stop. Only when I was exhausted did I release him. Emery didn't make a sound. Instead, he gently nudged his hand toward my lips again. Do you want to bite more? My heart crumpled. Tears finally fell. Get lost. No one is trying to take you. Emery exhaled in relief, grabbed a warm towel, wiped my face, and then dropped straight to his knees. Then honey, sleep. I'll keep watch. I didn't bother arguing. I had plenty of time to deal with him later. Thankfully, Emery's pseudo-susceptibility ended on the 3rd day. He put on a suit and placed the family company share transfer papers by my hand. Sign it. This time, I didn't refuse. My signature hit the page instantly. I couldn't wait to see his father's face. Unfortunately, once the authorities confirmed the massive tax fraud from the Vorin family, and the 40 billion level project he'd pushed for collapsing, Emery's father had a stroke on the spot. Emery dutifully sent him to a nursing facility. Rumor said the electrotherapy worked wonders. As for me, I stood with a group of shareholders who owed favors to the family company and officially appointed Emery as the new executive general manager. Everything fell back into place. Except for one thing. Emery was still annoying. He asked 3 times a day when we were getting remarried. I lowered my gaze to my subtly changing body. Depends on how well you behave, idiot.
After finishing this story, I kept thinking about one question. How far can love bend before it finally breaks? This isn't just the downfall of a marriage. It's the slow collapse of someone who kept giving long after he stopped being seen. On the surface, the relationship between Jalen and Emery Hart looks like a classic tragedy, devotion met with indifference, sacrifice met with silence. But what makes this story powerful is the quiet cruelty, the kind that doesn't scream, it erodes. The writing shines most in the subtle moments, Jalen holding onto memories that Emery barely remembers. The watch, an object so small yet carrying the entire weight of their marriage. And that heartbreaking scene in the apartment, where Jalen realizes that the safe place was never home. But not everything is perfect. Some twists come fast and heavy, the family power struggle, the forced medical decisions, the secret apartment. They raise the stakes, yes, but sometimes at the cost of emotional pacing. Still, the core remains strong, a person reclaiming their dignity after being treated as replaceable. What I appreciate most is that Jalen never becomes a victim in spirit. Even when the world keeps shrinking around him, he tries to stand, to protect his child, to walk away with the last pieces of himself intact. And Emery, whether you see him as a broken man trapped by family pressure or someone who simply realized too late what he had, that's up to you. So tell me, who do you sympathize with more, Jalen, who kept loving, or Emery, who lost everything before he realized its value? And do you think their story is one of inevitable tragedy, or a necessary rebirth? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear how you interpret this journey.